Hello everyone, my name is Rahul and today we'll be discussing about the general test, specifically about the Q and the LR section in the general test for the CUET exam. As far as the CUET exam is concerned, the overall content for the general test, that is section 3, is something like this, right? So the syllabus says there will be general knowledge, there will be current affairs, there will be general mental ability, numerical ability, quantitative reasoning and logical reasoning. So today briefly I'm going to talk about the maths part and the LR and AR part, right? In terms of pattern, the pattern is there will be 75 questions in all. You'll have an hour to attempt these questions, so 60 minutes time limit, and you're not expected to do all the questions. You are supposed to attempt 60 out of the 75. This could be any 60 questions. Also, if you look at the syllabus that CUET has come out with, it clearly says that the questions will be till class 8th level. Now, because we're looking at all the boards combined across the country, 8th level is more of a guiding principle. So basic concepts in maths and logical reasoning is what is expected in this paper, right? The preliminary observations or comments about the paper. Number one is you have to attempt 60 questions. Now CUET has not come out with any breakup of the paper in terms of what topics the questions will be from. For example, out of the 75, we could have a scenario where there are 25 questions each on GK, current affairs and general knowledge, the maths part, general mental ability, mathematics, etc., and the logical reasoning and analytical reasoning part. This could happen, though I seriously doubt that this will happen. But in any case, when I'm attempting the questions, I do not have to attempt all of these three subparts equally, right? What I would want to do is, I would want to concentrate on my strength area. So if I'm someone who's very comfortable with maths, I might want to go into the maths sections, attempt more questions from there, and then see how much GK that I know, right? Typically, GK questions will help you save time. So if you're running short of time, it will be a good idea to go on to the GK questions and try to attempt them quickly, and then see the kind of time that you have left for the LR and the QA part. As we keep on discussing these topics, as we keep discussing mock papers, we'll talk more about the strategy for the paper. Another question that right now, at least I find a little intriguing is, how do I know that I have to stop? Right? So once I have attempted 60 questions, how do I know that this is it? Will I end up attempting more questions? So again, probably the software will take care of this problem. Once you have attempted 60 questions, there's a good possibility that the computer will say that you cannot attempt any further questions, right? CUET is still to come out with more details about the operational details about the paper, and therefore, as and when we come to know, we'll be sharing that information with you on this same channel. Next, what will be the difficulty level of the exam? Please understand, CUET is being brought in to reduce the pressure that students in class 12th face, and therefore the exam probably will not be a very high difficulty level. Therefore, the syllabus says till class 8th only. Also, if you look at the other papers that NTA has conducted, so NTA conducts papers for JIPMAT. This is the entrance exam for IIM Bodh Gaya and Jammu. Also, there have been previous UCET exams which were happening till last year. If you look at these exams, you will see that the section 3 part, the GK, the maths and the LR, is typically of not very high difficulty level. It is something that most of the students will be able to attempt. Secondly, CUET is happening for the first time. It makes a lot of sense to have a paper that most of the students are able to attempt. So hopefully the difficulty level will not be very high, but that does not mean the competition changes. You're still competing with the students who are going to score 100% in their boards, and therefore make sure your tempo is high. So the moment you are done with your class 12th boards, it will make a lot of sense to sit down and start preparing for this examination, because you will have almost a month's time to devote to this exam. So is bar no chutti after the boards khatam, dusra kaam chalu. Right? Syllabus wise breakup. If I talk about the maths section, these are the topics that you are looking at, okay? Very broadly, should look something like this. So the initial part is something that is mostly covered from class 6 to 9th probably. Percentage, profit loss discount, simple interest, compound interest, ratio, proportion, averages, time, speed, distance, time and work. From class 8th onwards, you start getting into basic algebra, so you're solving linear equations, basics of quadratic equations and things like that. Also, questions pertaining to square roots, cube roots, things like that, because that is part of the class 8th NCERT. Basic geometry, where you're looking at angles, lines, triangles, and basics of circles and parallelograms. Also, I'm adding here a topic called data interpretation. So what is data interpretation? Essentially, these are basic graphs and tables, right? So when I say graphs, what I mean is, suppose there might be a line graph, a bar chart, which has data given, and then there are questions based on this. There could be a basic line chart. There are questions based on this. There is a table given. Suppose marks scored by students in different examinations. You are supposed to find out the average, the highest, the lowest, the percentage change, and things like that. Why I am writing this here is because most of the concepts that you use to answer the questions on data interpretations pertain to percentages, averages, and ratios. Right? So if these three topics you're comfortable with, most of the DI questions you will be able to solve. And therefore, in terms of importance of topics, number 1, number 2, number 3, and then their applications. So basically profit loss discount, some basics of time and work, and probably a bit of time, speed, distance, right? Not getting into relative speed and things like these, but the concept of distance, speed, time, the concept of say people running towards each other, one person chasing the other, basic concepts of time, speed, distance, right? So this is broadly maths. If I talk of analytical reasoning, analytical reasoning will have topics or a topic list which reads something like this. So basics like coding, decoding. A word is given, it is coded into some other format. You have to find out the pattern. Series, this could be a number-based series, this could be alphabet series. Blood relations, A is the father of B, B is the son of C, etc. Direction test, A moves 50 meters north, takes a right, goes 20 meters south, and so on. Arrangements, information about people is given, information about, say, their subjects is given, you have to arrange which person studies with subject. Selection, there is a group of 10 people, you have to select 4 or 5 people based on certain restrictions. Venn diagrams, again circles, for example, very briefly, this would look something like this. So if I mention a certain aspect and say vehicles and cars, or vehicles and say Mahindra cars, okay. So I say which Venn diagram better represents the two entities. So Mahindra cars will be a subpart of vehicles, and therefore this would be the answer, something like that. So basic concepts of Venn diagram. Cubes, typically a large cube cut into smaller parts and things like that. And visual reasoning. So there are 3 or 4 visual shapes given to you. You have to see which shape follows the given pattern in the shapes that are given in the question. Basic concepts of analytical reasoning. Then comes, what is the important part here? I think in terms of importance, or if you look at previous kind of papers, the questions that you see repeatedly would be definitely series, right? Definitely arrangement sets. Typically these are set based questions. So one set would have 4 or 5 questions. Definitely Venn diagrams, definitely visual reasoning, and a bit of coding, decoding. Right? Again, I'm not saying there won't be questions from other topics. I'm saying these are questions that will almost definitely be there in the paper. In terms of logical reasoning, you have syllogisms, you have data consistency, logical puzzles, and critical reasoning. Right? We will be covering these topics in the future videos on this channel. But again, in terms of importance, I'd say this is very important. It should not have disappeared. Yeah, so logical puzzles being very important, syllogisms being very important, right? Now the study plan, because the idea is to orient you towards preparing for the specific part of section 3. How do you go about preparation? So I think on 8th of June, there is an important board examination some of you might have. and therefore I am basing my plan after the 8th of June. So from the 8th to about the 20th, so around 2 weeks of time, what you're looking to do is focus on the topics. Make sure that you've gone through most of the topics that I just listed. Practice those topics, identify which topics you're good at, which you're not very good at, because that will determine how you attempt the paper eventually. Which 15 questions you're going to leave is going to come out from this list, right? So try to give as many topic tests as possible so that you know the accuracy that you're able to hit in a topic and the kind of time that you take to attempt the paper, right? Once you've hit the 20th, 21st of June, say 70%, 80% of the syllabus list is completed, it is then time to go into mock test mode. So from 21st to whenever the exam happens, you are practicing mock tests, right? So you give the entire test. Typically, if you're giving a 1-hour test, you should sit down for about 1.5 hours to analyze that test and see which questions you got wrong, which were the questions that you attempted and wasted time, which were the questions that you should have attempted but you did not attempt because you thought they were difficult, right? While we are discussing our mock test series, we'll be doing that analysis part again on this channel. So that might also help you with getting a strategy in place for your actual attempt. And while you're giving papers, it becomes a very good feedback loop for the topics that you want to revise, right? For example, I think I'm very good at, say, percentages. I attempt the mock papers and I realize I'm not able to do questions from percentages. It is a good idea to just go through the notes that you've made, the questions that you've attempted, to see where you're going wrong, right? How much time per day that you should devote? Again, this is one of the most difficult questions to answer, because if there is a number to this question, then everyone can clear any exam that you want. For example, if I say to crack CUET, you should study for, say, 100 hours. Some of us would do it in 1 hour. So someone who's lazy like me will say, okay, I'll drop a year and make sure I study 100 hours in the year, right? So whatever you can take out without being unnecessarily burdened is what you should do here. Again, please understand, this preparation is based mostly on practice, right? For example, you're giving an English test for which you would be reading, you attempt a few questions, you're not able to solve those questions, you sit down and think about them. You will be writing an examination which has GK, you could read newspapers. So there are a lot of activities that you can do which may not fall into the study plan per se, but they will aid you towards doing well in the paper. So as long as you're not feeling unnecessarily burdened, that is the kind of time that you should take out. Ideally, if you're, say, doing a class or going through videos, which concept videos, maybe 2 hours for that and about 2.5 hours of practice should be good enough for you to manage this paper. Again, as I said, practice is key. So even if you're not in the mood to sit down and study or take up concepts, just sit down and do a lot of reading, go through newspapers, go through Wikipedia or current affair articles, go through previous year questions. Just do a lot of reading so that you're in that practice of trying to answer questions, and as they say, you're in the game, right? Also, please understand, this is a different examination. For some of us, we had a taste of it in December when you gave your first boards, which were MCQ based. It is similar here, but it takes you to the next level, right? The content for this exam is exactly the same that you've been studying in schools. All of us, hopefully, since we're in class 12, we would have passed class 8th. This is something that we have done, but the application is very, very different, right? And therefore, how well you do in this examination will depend on how properly you understand the concepts and you're able to apply them. Steps here do not matter. Typically in a math examination, my obsession in school always used to be that I have to write as many steps as possible. Sometimes I used to add a 5 and then subtract that 5 later, 2 steps later, so that those steps बढ़ जाएंगे, शायद number बढ़ जाए. Here it does not happen. You either get it right or wrong, right? And therefore, the understanding of concept is critical. Basic concepts, but they have to be ingrained in your head. Also, the answers are in front of you, right? So if you're smart enough, you might actually be able to find that answer without doing the math that is involved, right? For example, just look at this question. This is a question that you can very well expect in the examination as well. And this is a question that most of us would have seen somewhere or the other. Typically a class 8th sort of a level question, which says time and work is the topic. It says A can do a piece of work in 20 days. B can do the same in 30. In how many days will they do the work together? It's an MCQ question, so I've written the options as well, 10, 15, 12 and 20. What could be the answer? Of course, there is a way of solving this. We did it in school. We said let the work be x, therefore A does x by 20 in one day, x by 13 add and something like that. I don't remember it properly, right? Then you might come across someone who says, okay, there's a direct formula for this, just write AB upon A plus B and you'll get the answer. I'm not able to remember formulas, but this is a question that is in front of me in the examination. I want an answer for it, right? So as I said, you have to understand the concepts. If they are there, you can apply it across questions, right? So if I look at this question and I say, fine, because A can do a piece of work in 20 days. If A and B have to do the work together, obviously they will take lesser amount of time because A alone is able to do it in 20 days. So from the option list, I can be sure that this will not be the answer. Again, this should not have happened. Yeah, so this will definitely not be the answer because A alone is doing the work in 20 days, right? Now I look at B. B alone is able to do the work in 30 days. If I have two people like B, in how many days will the work get finished? Because B alone does it in 30. If there are two people exactly like B, they will take half the time. So B and B working will take 15 days to finish. But we have to find out the answer for A and B. So 15 also cannot be the answer. I then move on to A. A alone does the work in 20 days. If for some reason there were two people like A and A doing the work, how many days will they require to do the work? A does it in 20, A and A will take half the time. So the answer for A and A should be 10, but I want the answer for A and B. And therefore the only option left is 12, which will be my answer. Concepts are important, the answer is in front of you. This is something that you are expected to work on while you're giving your mocks, right? If I'm able to solve some questions without actually getting into the solution part, I will save a lot of time and therefore my attempts will be higher, right? So when we're discussing the mocks, we'll try to do this, try to work with options to get to the answer and things like that. Since I am at this and I understand a lot of us have a problem with this subject called math, you know, zindagi mein kahan use hogi, abhi hone wali hai. So if I ask you, how many of us are not good with calculations? A lot of us would probably fall in that bracket. Some of us might feel, okay, fine, you know, we are okay with it. I mean, most of it I'm able to do, but otherwise I use my phone. Then there'll be some of us who probably would have done some sort of training or naturally would be pretty good at calculating and numbers would be talking to us. But why I'm saying this is to show you how the exam is different, right? Just a small test. Okay, so there'll be a calculation or division on the screen. What I want to do is find the answer to 2 places of decimal and note your time. This is the question. 63 divided by 25. The first instinct is typically, students end up taking about 20-22 seconds to answer this. The instinctive idea is that I do this. Since I'm supposed to do it early, it is being timed. I just make sure that I'm using very bad handwriting. Then there is a problem. But okay, fine, I put a dot and a 0 here. 25, 130, a bit of hit and trial. 25 5s is 125. I subtract that, I get a 5. Then again there is a problem, whether I put a 0 here or here. I take my chances, put a 0 here. 25 2s is 50 and therefore I get the answer. Now, just because my handwriting is bad does not mean I'm doing it quickly, right? Another question, what is the value of 63 into 4? Two things happen. Number one, 63 into 4, I'm more willing to solve this rather than 63 by 25. Also, I'm able to do 63 into 4 a little quicker, right? 60 into 4 is a 240. 3 4s are 12 and therefore the 63 into 4 is simply 240 plus 12, which is 252. When I say that this exam is different, what I'm saying is you have to understand both these questions are exactly the same. If I had to calculate 63 upon 25, what I can always do is I can multiply a 4 in the numerator and the denominator. The value does not change. This is a concept that we know, right? 63 into 4, I am sure you would have been able to solve within about 6 to 7 seconds. And 25 into 4, most of us would remember, is 100. 252 upon 100 is something that I can be very sure of solving without any calculation, 2.52. This is what has to happen. The content remains the same. The application has to change, right? So technically speaking, all of you are prepared for the paper. Mostly, a bit of revision is required, but you're ready for the paper. The idea is how you tackle the paper will determine how well you do in that exam, right? And again, just to highlight this point further, another activity that I want you to do is take out your phone. Most of you probably would already have it in your hands. Think of a friend and send him a hi on WhatsApp, right? See how much time it takes you. Again, think of another friend and send him a mail saying hi, right? You will realize that writing the mail takes or sending that mail takes longer time, right? Why does that happen? Because I know WhatsApp is something that I keep using regularly. I know where that app, that icon is. So my hand by default goes onto that icon. I type the numbers pretty quickly, write the hi and send. As soon as I write a mail, because we don't use Gmails or mails very often, I'm not very sure where the icon is. Once I reach it, I'm not sure how to compose the mail, and things start to happen, right? So as I said, this exam is about practice. You have to ingrain you have to get used to the idea of attempting 60 questions in 60 minutes. Regularly. You have to very clearly know where the app is or where the icon is, that is what topics you're good at, what topics you're not, so that in the exam you can make the right choice. If you're doing that, invariably you'll have a good result as well, right? So practice is what will make sure that you get the kind of marks that you're looking for in this examination, section 3 general test CUET. Since we're talking of calculations, I would probably share with you some basic concepts, right, which might help you or just to get you started. As we go along in this series of videos, we will keep sharing more. I don't want to use the word tricks because these are basic ideas ingrained in maths. So I mean, tricks is just a too fancy a word for these. For example, additions, right? Now, I mean, I'm very sure adding 5 and 7, if you have to do that, versus adding a 10 and a 20, you'll be more comfortable adding 10s and 20, especially as I go into 2-digit numbers, a 17 and 15 versus a 20 and 13, right? It will be easier for me to add this versus this, right? Because here I'm just adding it to a 0. Here I'll have a carry forward. So the first rule of adding would be complete the tens. For example, if you have to add 15 to 17, I know that 17 is a number closer to a multiple of 10, 20, right? And 17 requires 3 to reach 20. So I take the 3 from here and add it to 17. And then these two questions become same, right? So for example, if I say, what will be, suppose 28 plus say 15 or 16, not to repeat the number. 28 is closer to a multiple of 10, 13, it needs a 2. So I take a 2 from here, add it to 28, this becomes 30, I'm left with 14, add 30 and 14, you get a 44. Complete the 10, alright. For example, what will be 59 plus 59 plus 43? I'll take the 59 to the next multiple of 10, which is 60. It needs a 1. So 1 from 43 goes there. I get a 60 in the first place, 42 in the second place. 60 plus 42 becomes a 1, 0. The idea is not to use the pen essentially. So whatever I just said, I'll do that mentally. With a bit of practice, I'll be able to do it quickly. Even if there are more than 2 numbers that you're adding, right? For example, it's a LRDI question. It says, what is the total marks that student A scored in the 4 examinations? Student A had scored 48, 61, 16 and 32. Probably he was not a very smart kid, probably my score from class 10th, right? So what is his total score? How we are used to doing it is 48, 61, 16, 32, 8 plus 1, 9, 9 plus 6, 15, 15 plus 2, 17, and so on, right? Avoid doing this entire step. Again, try to complete the tens. So look at numbers which add up to a multiple of 10 in the first place. Out of these four, you can see 48 and 32 add up to a 10, right? So first of all, I'll add 48 and 32 in my head. 2 from here goes here to 48, it becomes 50. This becomes 30. 50 plus 30 is 80, right? Again, 80 in my head. 61 and 16, I'm sure I'll be able to add very quickly, or I'll take the 1 from here, add it to 16. This will become 60 and 17. 60 and 17 is 77. 80 plus 77 is 157. Always quicker than doing something like this, right? The first rule of addition is complete the tens. They're easier to add, right? What if the number becomes larger? Right now I'm dealing with 2-digit numbers. I might actually have a 4-digit number. 3642 plus 2439. So as the slide says, split the number. 3642 2439. I will split it into smaller parts. And the parts ideally should be such that there is no carry forward. Ideally, if you're stuck with the carry forward, you cannot help it. But try to go in for parts which do not have a carry forward. For example, what I can do here is, say I split the number like this. So I have a 2 and a 9. I have a 364 and 243. Clearly, 2 and 9 is 11. There is a carry forward, and still I have to deal with 3-digit numbers, which will not be possible to do mentally, at least for me. Right? And therefore, what I'll do is, I'll split the number somewhere here. So I have a 42 and 39 to be added, a 36 and 24 to be added. Both of these calculations are calculations which I can do mentally. Also, 4 plus 3 is a 7. So this sum will not exceed 100. There will be no carry forward, right? So first of all, I'm adding 42 and 39. I take a 1 from here. Add to 39 becomes 40, 41. 41 plus 40 will be 81. Just a second. Color scheme, right? And then the numbers in front. Take the 4, add it to 36 becomes 40. 40 plus 20 is a 60. And therefore the answer will be 6081. With a little bit of practice, this can be done almost orally, right? Again, practice. When you're subtracting, today I'll just talk about the base of 10. So again, if you search for what I'm telling you right now, you will come across the word called Vedic maths. It's quite a popular thing nowadays. Again, based in the basic concepts of math. So there is a sutra in the Vedas which says, all from 9 last from 10. This is, I do not know the Sanskrit translation or the actual Sanskrit phrase, but it translates to all from 9, the last from 10. So this is if you are subtracting a number from a power of 10, right? For example, if I'm doing 100 minus 63, right? So what we do normally is we carry forward or backwards, whatever. This one goes to 0, makes it a 10. Another carry forward, this becomes 9. I'm left with a 10. So all the numbers will be subtracted from 9. The last one will be subtracted from 10. All from 9, last from 10. 10 minus 3 is a 7. 9 minus 6 is a 3. The answer comes out to 37. So if I'm trying to do this orally, what I'll do is, for example, suppose the number is 100 minus 54. You subtract the last number from 10. 10 minus 4 is a 6. And you subtract the rest of the numbers from 9. 9 minus 5 is a 4. All from 9, last from 10. For example, 1000 minus 784. All from 9, last from 10. You can start anywhere from where you want. You could start from the left, you could start from the right, whatever you want, wherever you are more comfortable with. Just remember, all from 9, last from 10. So the last digit is 4. 10 minus 4 is a 6. The other two digits are 7 and 8. 7 subtracted from 9 is 2. 8 subtracted from 9 is a 1. And therefore 216 becomes the answer. Last from 10, last from 10, the rest from 9s, right? Since we're talking about this, typically when you are adding or subtracting, which side should you start from? The left or the right? So the left or the right? We again are in a habit of starting from the right, right? But it is not the more intuitive part. Our brain is wired to read numbers from the left, right? And a very good example of this is when you go out to buy phones. For example, there's this Samsung flagship phone which is selling for something like this, right? And if you actually look back, you'll realize most of the things that you buy online or otherwise have a price ending in a 9. Why does this happen? Because we are wired to read numbers from the left. So when I start reading this, in my head, this is what I register. Instead, if the price was this much, that is 1 rupee more, I would have registered this in my head. For example, if I have something which costs 599 versus something that costs 600, घर पे क्या बताएंगे? सर पाव 500 का मिल रहा है, 600 का है, समझ रहे हो? So again, the idea is we are wired to read numbers from the left. So while calculating as well, if you do it from the left, it will be more intuitive for you. But again, it requires a shift because we've been subtracting or adding from the right for years now. In a month, that shift happened does not necessary. So just introducing you to that idea. Again, as we keep solving questions, we'll keep coming back to the idea as well. Okay, all from 9s, last from 10. This can also be used for decimals, right? For example, if I say, just to link it to the one of the topics, profit and loss, I buy an article for 3 rupees 45 paise and sell it for 10 rupees. What is the profit? Profit essentially is the selling price minus the cost price. So yeah, basically what I'm supposed to do is 10 minus 3.45. Again, these two questions are essentially conceptually the same. The only thing is there is a decimal here, which I will adjust, okay? So 10.35 I can write as adjust the decimal in the end. This is essentially 1000 minus 345. And I know when I have to subtract a number from a power of 10, all I do is all from 9 is the last from 10. So 10 minus 5 is a 5, 9 minus 4 is a 5, 9 minus 3 is a 6. And therefore the remaining part will be 6.55. Right? So while adding, make a 10. If the number is large, split it, avoid carry forwards. If you're subtracting from powers of 10, all from 9, last from 10. Right? Taking this powers of 10 into multiplication. For example, suppose you have to multiply 105 and 107. Of course, we can do it. We know how to. 105, 107, 7 5s are 35, 7, some crosses and something like that, and then the answer comes out, right? Again, just to connect this with basic algebra. So if you have two numbers which are close to 100, right, just above 100, 105, 107, essentially what I'm doing is I'm trying to multiply 100 plus 5 with 100 plus 7. If I open the brackets, I'll get 10000 plus 7 into 100 plus 5 into 100 plus 7 5s. You don't have to know any part of this. How we'll solve it, I'll tell you in a bit. But this is what is happening. So the idea is it's not magic, it's just math. If I add these three terms, there is a 00 here, there is a 00 here. So the last two digits will be 35, which is nothing but the product of these two numbers. Before that, I'll have a 7 plus 5, 12, which will get added to the double zeros here. So I'll have a 1, 2, which is the sum of these two numbers before it, and then the 1. And therefore, the product is 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. How do I solve it? Of course, I'll not do this every single time. So if you have to multiply two numbers which are close to 100, 105, 107, the extra bit, that is the excess that is there from from 100. So 5 in case of 105, 7 in case of 107, we write that separately. So what I'm doing is I'm multiplying 105 and 107. There is an excess of 5 here, there is an excess of 7 here, right? So what you do is you multiply the two excesses. 7 5s are 35. The product has to be a 2-digit number. If it is not, we'll make an adjustment, which I'll just tell you. Then either you add this 5 to 107 or you add this 7 to 105. Both cases it will be 107 plus 5 is 112, and that becomes the answer. Alright. Again, one more question. For example, 108 and 104. So 108 has a surplus of 8, 104 has a surplus of 4. 8 4s are 32, 104 plus 8, 112, and that becomes the answer. Sorry, 32, I'm writing 35 from the previous question, right? What if the product is not a 2-digit number? The adjustment that you have to make. For example, if it were 102 and 103, the surpluses are 2 and 3. So you multiply 2 and 3. 3 2s are 6. Since it is a 1-digit number, you add a 0 in front. So you write 06. Then you either add this 2 to 103 or 3 to 102, you'll get a 105. So 10506. What if it is a 3-digit number? Say 111 and say 110. So there is a surplus of 11 here, a surplus of 10 here. Multiply 11 and 10. 11 and 10 is 110. So from the 110, I just write the last 2 digits, 10, and carry forward the 1. What will I do with this 1? I do the next step, that is adding this 10 to 111, which will become a 121. Add this carry forward to this 3rd digit. Right? What if I did not have a surplus but a deficit? 96 into 95. The process remains the same. The only thing is 96 and 95 are deficits, not surpluses. With respect to 100, 96 is a deficit of -4. 95 has a deficit of -5. The rest of it remains the same. -4 into -5 is 20. You take this -5, add it to 96. 96 minus 5 is 91, and that becomes the answer. 9120. Multiplying two numbers close to 100. Right? Since we are talking of multiplication, another concept that can be used is, or another good pattern that comes out is when you're multiplying a number by 11. For example, if I write 42 into 11, straightforward, I can multiply. Multiplying 1 is easy. But if you're multiplying by 11, what happens is, you'll write a 4-2 and then again a 4-2. So what you get is, you get the 2 in the end, this digit. You get the sum of the two digits in the center and the first digit on the left. So if you multiply a number by 11, you can do this directly. Write the last number in the end, add the two digits, write the first digit on the left. 35 into 11, for example, 5 comes in the end, 5 plus 3, 8, 3 comes in the front, 385. Right? What if the sum is not a one-digit number? For example, if the sum here was not a one-digit number, I would have written one digit and carry forwarded the 10, right? So for example, if I say 49 into 11, I write the 9 on the right and the end. I add 4 and 9. 4 plus 9 is a 13. So I write a 3, carry forward the 1. This 1 will get added to this 4 to give me a 539 is the answer. and this can be extended for as much as you want. If I was multiplying a number which is not a 2-digit number by 11, for example 4 2 3 1 6 into 11, I'll still do the same thing. I'll start from the last digit, write it in the end, and then add 2 digits at a time. There'll be a repetition of digits. Just what I'll do here is I'll write 6 in the end. Then I'll add 6 and 1. 6 plus 1 is a 7. Then I'll add 1 and 3. 1 plus 3 is a 4. Then I'll add 3 and 2. 3 plus 2 is a 5. Then I'll add 2 and 4. 2 plus 4 is a 6. At this point, I am left with only 4 in the front. So I write 4 as it is. 465, 476. Right? For example, we just multiplied 111 and 110. So suppose I had to multiply 111 by 11. The answer that we got was, I think, 1221. You know, if I remove the 0. So I write this 1 at the end. 1 plus 1, 2. 1 plus 1, 2. This 1 comes in front, and therefore 122. Multiplying a number by 11. Right? And one last thing for this lecture is squaring. What if you have to square a number that ends in 5? So what I do here is, for example, if I ask you the square of 75, some of you might know it, some of you would calculate it, some of you would have been lost by now. Yeah, 75 square is 5625. Similarly, if I look at 65 square, it is 4225. 55 square is 3025. These are values that we can calculate to be sure. So if I ask you to look for a pattern, so WhatsApp is popular for questions like these. It will say this is a question that was asked in the UPSC examination, only IAS rank 1 could answer it. Hota nahi hai. WhatsApp pe hota hai bas. But yeah, is there a pattern? 25 repeats. So every time you're squaring a number that ends in 5, there will be a 25 in the end. Next, 7 becomes a 56. 6 becomes a 42. 5 becomes a 30. How can this happen? So if I have to make 7 into a 56, I multiply 7 by 8, the next digit. 6 for 42, I multiply by 7, the next digit. 5 for 30, I multiply by 6, the next digit. And therefore, the rule for finding the square of a number ending in 5 simply is, suppose 85, okay? The square of a number ending in 5. You write 25 in the end. You multiply 8 by the next digit. So after 8 I have a 9. So I multiply 9 and 8. 7225. And this will apply to any sort of number that ends in 5, even if it is a 3-digit number. Ends in 5, I have to find the square. So 25 in the end. Before 5, I have 11. So I take this 11, multiply 11 by its next digit. 11, 12s are. 12 into 11 would be 2. 2 plus 1, 3, 1. So 1, 3, 2, 2, 5. Right? Great. We can extend this to other numbers as well. Just giving you an idea of what will happen. If you are finding the squares of numbers which do not end in 5 but are close to that. For example, 76. Now this rule will not apply here because this does not end in 5. How do I find the square of 76? I'm sure the first thing is to multiply 76 and 76. Then some of you would have started thinking, okay, 75 plus 1 likh sakte hain, then I can expand it or something like that. But in the algebraic identities that we studied, there were 3. a plus b square, a minus b square, a square minus b square. Again, you don't have to remember them for now. 76 minus 75 square would be a plus b into a minus b. Now what we do is, we distribute the work. I'll do half the calculation, you do the rest half. The half that I will solve is 76 minus 75. I can do this orally, it is a 1. And therefore, right? So the identity that I get is, the difference of squares of two consecutive numbers is equal to the sum of the two numbers. And therefore 76 square will be 75 square plus 75 plus 76. 75 square I think we can do orally is now 5625. If I add 75 to this, I'll get 5700. If I add 76 to it, I'll get 5776. And that is the square of 76. So what I am trying to extend it up to is, if I look at a series of any 10 numbers, right? Any 10, the series of 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I'm writing the series of 20s because मैं घर से याद करके आया हूँ. So yeah. But for any series, what are the squares that you can write orally out of these 10? 1 definitely will be the one ending in 0. 20 square is 400, 30 square is 900, 40 square is 1600, 50 square is 2500, and so on. Right? 14 square is 19600, 140 square. And now you would also be able to write the square of 25 because it ends in 5. Since it ends in 5, so there will be 25 in the end. 2, the next number is 3, 2 3s are 6. Right? Using these two numbers, I'll be able to find the numbers of squares of numbers ending in 9, 1, 4 and 6. What you do is, to find the square of an adjacent number, you add the two numbers to the square of the previous number. So if I have to find the square of 21, I'll say 400 plus 20 plus 21. 441, square of 21. Similarly, for 26, I'll say 625, the square of 25, plus 25 plus 26. 625 plus 25 is 650, plus 26 is 676. So using the square of 0 and 5, I can find the square of 1 and 6. Similarly, if I'm going forward, I'm adding. If I have to go back, I'll subtract. If I have to find the square of 24, I'll say 625 minus 25, 600, minus 24, 576. Any other number that I can solve using a similar logic? 29. Number after this is 30, which is a square of 900. So from 900, if you subtract 30, 870, and then this 29. So with a little bit of practice, you'll be able to get the squares of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers out of 10 for any 10 numbers. 60% of the squares can be found out almost orally with a little bit of practice. Okay. I think that is mostly what we'll be covering today. Just to recap, we have talked about a bit of additions, a bit of subtraction, a couple of multiplications and squares, right? Now what next? For students who will be writing the CUET exam, we are also offering a mock test series for general test. So these are some domain specific subjects and English and the general test. This starts from 10th of June. So a couple of days after you've had your math examination. We've broken down into two parts. There are first 5 mocks will be concept builder mocks. So what happens here is every mock test will cover a specific part of your syllabus. For example, mock 1 will have topics like percentage, profit loss discount, SICI, bit of ratio. It will have current affairs for some specific months, a bit of history. It will have coding, decoding, blood relations, direction tests, and so on. Similarly, for English, it will be focused on, say, grammar, right? So for this is mock 1. Then the second mock, some other topics will be covered. So we'll have 5 such concept builder mocks. Once you have given a mock, for the next 3 days, we'll be discussing the concepts used and the questions that were there in the paper. So these will be typically easy level questions or the entry level questions which can be discussed as concepts. This will happen over the next 3 days on the same channel. So for the test, you'll get the link in the description for this video where you can register for the test. You give the test. There are 3 videos that follow over the next 3 days with the concepts and the questions for that mock. Once this is done, so a period of about 15 to 16 days, towards the end of June, we'll start with the full length mocks. There are 5 full length mocks, which will again have topics from different subtopics. They'll be as close to the exam that you can expect in CUET in a similar format as CUET exam is supposed to happen for English and the general test. These again will be followed by complete discussion and analysis. So for these papers, we'll talk about the strategy that you must have to attempt the paper, maximize your score, what are the questions that you should leave, how to choose a question that you should leave, which one you should not leave. Mostly I'll be doing that part with you. Why I think I can help you with this is simply because, again, I've been someone who has a very bad academic record. So I was at 80% in 10th, about 80 in 12th. I did my engineering, managed to score 62%. So yeah, I'm a very non-hardworking or hardly working person, and definitely not someone who's very smart, which you would have figured out by now. But as far as aptitude tests are concerned, I think I've done well. If you happen to search Rahul Sharma, CAT, you would get my name as a top search. So I've scored 100 percentile in CAT 2-3 times, right? So again, we'll sit down and talk about the story once we start with this. But right now, we'll be giving 5 concept builder mocks. The analysis will be covered on this channel. Then 5 full length mocks for which we'll talk about the strategy, how you can improve your score, the analysis for them. Apart from these, we're also offering domain specific tests for physics, chemistry, biology, accounts, and mathematics. For these topics as well, we'll have content videos for each of the subjects. The idea is to revise all the concepts that you've done in school so that they're ready for CUET in that format. These will again will be in mock modes. There'll be 4 mock tests, which will be topic-wise mock tests, and then 2 full-length mock tests for each of the specific subjects, right? So that is the plan to help you, as well as we can for your exam CUET. Just the end remarks would be, stay calm, make sure you're in the habit of practice, take it as something that you're doing for yourself, enjoy the process, and if there is anything, we're here to help you out, right? So thank you very much. See you next time. Bye-bye.